We have all experienced situations where we told someone, "I will never forgive you for this. You are responsible for me being unhappy. This situation is your entire fault and you created this, and I cannot forgive you for it." Why is that? How many of us cannot forgive ourselves? Why is that? First, it is important to understand that you have the final say on how you will react to others. You have the choice to respond in a way that does not allow others' fear or anger to attach to you. In other words, you choose your response. How do we do this? Forgiveness involves willfully putting aside feelings of resentment towards someone who has committed a wrong, been unfair or hurtful, or otherwise harmed you in some way. Forgiveness is not merely accepting what happened or ceasing to be angry. Rather, it involves a voluntary transformation of your feelings, attitudes, and behavior so that you are no longer dominated by the resentment and can express compassion, generosity, for the person who wronged you. Forgiveness is sometimes considered an important process in psychotherapy or counseling. When you use your Christ consciousness and access the higher mind, you begin to understand you have choices and you don't have to fall into the self-doubt, unworthiness, or criticism of others' expectations of you. Using boundaries as a technique to establish ground rules are most important. Remove the emotion from the experience. Look at the truth of the matter. What's true for you? What's true for them? Can you objectively remove the emotion of the situation, or do you fall under the spell of it? Forgiveness is allowed by you, the creator of your experience. If you choose not to allow forgiveness for yourself or anyone, you are purposely holding yourself back and settling into a program of lack and negativity. Your resentment will grow and harden and will become harder to break through. They are the chains that bind your beliefs. You can forgive without even expressing this to another person. Simply the intent of forgiveness is all you need. No one else need be present. What's important here is that you send the intent, received or not. You are the one releasing the energy. Awesome, awesome. Welcome everyone to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway. It's good to see you all tonight. Good to have you with us. We got a full panel tonight. This is going to be a great discussion. I know you guys are all going to enjoy this. But you know what it is. It's Friday night and it's time to feed your mind and grow your heart. Now I'll be asking the panel, how do we forgive? Or what is your understanding of forgiveness? Often the lack of forgiveness is the holding on of negative emotions. Trauma is a negative energy that becomes locked into our body's cells. They become a part of our chemical makeup, and releasing them can be difficult. Just as your body fights a cold with healthy T cells, also known as lymphocytes, positive energy will unlock and combat these negative emotions, and it can aid in releasing them from their attachment. Forgiveness is the ability to transmute this energy and replacing the negative experience with positivity, love and acceptance, and releasing are the antidote for forgiveness. Welcome everyone tonight. It's good to have you all with us. Teresa D'Antone is with us. Sophia, Wild Bird Wisdom. Sophia, you have someone with you tonight that you want to introduce real quick?
I do. Most of you will know exactly what this means. I'm a very sincere individual and I'm very observant. And this is now part of my collection.
Gold chain and all. Here's to you, Dalibor. Hats off to you, Dalibor.
And he lights up, but this is just my way, of honoring him, because every time I look at it, I smile. Mm-hmm. And I feel that's what those in spirit really want us to do. I mean, they understand our being, missing them and the shifting in connection. But there he is.
Wahoo.
He's got his gold chain. He's wearing the dumpster diving gold chain.
I like the glasses, and the hat is just too cool for school. Definitely.
Yeah, he likes it too.
Yeah, good. We have Grandpa Brian with us tonight. Welcome, Grandpa Brian. It's good to see you. Glad you're here. Hannah Ray, good to see you as well. Jusek, love seeing you here. Interesting that you guys are not together tonight. It's kind of like feels off, feels a little different, but hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Nick and Jasmine there at the bottom, holding up the rest of us. I like it. What kitty is with you? I see the white kitty again. Who's that?
This is Dean.
Dean?
Dean.
I love it. Is it James Dean?
No, so I was watching Supernatural at the time, and I said, "Hi, wouldn't it be funny if their names were Sam and Dean?" And then it stuck.
I love that.
We thought she was a boy, but then when we found out that she was a girl, we named her Deanie with an IE.
Oh, that's cute. I love that.
So yeah, looks like she wants to hang out tonight, so she'll be here.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, it looks like people are rolling in. Teresa, you want to
do that? Sure.
Do a shout out? Go ahead and shout out the chat room.
I certainly can.
All right.
As soon as I get chat back, it just rolled right off my screen. Okay. Greetings, everyone, and happy Friday. Chloe has shared that Scratch has crossed over, and we're going to miss Scratch. He was a nice guy, and he would come in here every now and then, and I'd follow him on Facebook, and he was very humorous. He had a great sense of humor. So
I'm sorry to hear that. But that just means we have someone else in spirit supporting us. So woo-hoo.
Yeah, our team on the other side
is growing, isn't it?
Stronger and stronger. Yeah, absolutely. But greetings, Chloe, sister. Thank you for bringing us that news and sharing that with us. I know you've reached out to him quite a bit too. So, all right. So it's good to see you, Chloe. Thank you. Who else we got in here? Let's see. Charles has joined us again from
Charles
Camp Chesterfield.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you, Rev Charles. Always. We got to have him back on. We really do.
You should join us anytime.
Great sense of humor, smart.
Yeah, open invitation anytime you want to join us.
You know that, Charles. Okay, just and push some buttons there with Sophia. We'll get you on. Let's see who else. Dolly. Hello, Dolly. Good to see you too. Always a pleasure to see you. And Scotty Boy, of course, it wouldn't be the same without him and not having him. Listen, when you're not in the
miss him. I miss him when he's not here. I'm like, where is he?
Yeah.
Where'd he go?
It's like, and you better leave some contact information with somebody, because I swear, Scotty, if anything ever happens, you have got to make sure that Chloe or somebody has contact information for you. All right, that would just
I only have an
hello,
email.
Everybody.
Feeling left out here, Scotty. So fix it. Love you.
Elderberry, my squirrel buddy. Good to see you, Elderberry. I love you.
Hi, Barry Chad.
It's always fun to see you. And welcome, Robert V. Thanks for dropping in. Good
Hi,
to
Robert.
see you tonight as well. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. or getting ready for a good weekend, that is. Let's see. I think that's it. Let's see. Lucky Stone has come in. He just finished his show with Courtney. I was starting to watch it too, but then the animals were getting in the way and I had to get myself set up and I couldn't watch it live. I never catch it live because it's always at 8 o'clock, right before our program. But they have some good discussions on that esoteric tea. Let's see who else we got in here. Did I just about cover it? Let's see.
Looks like you pretty much, you've got pretty much everybody.
Plus our panel. So, welcome everybody, and thanks for being here with us tonight. And thanks for sharing it out to others. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lori, sister?
Yeah. So I thought tonight, Teresa, we would start with you and wanting to get your take. What is your understanding of forgiveness? What have you come to learn about it? And what are your feelings, thoughts, and emotions of it?
Yeah, I've got a new paradigm these days about forgiveness. A new way of looking at it. Because I'm one of those who's had a hard time. I've been through a lot of trauma. And so I've had a hard time letting go of that. It took years and years. I went to counseling at Maryland University. I went to counseling at GW when I was taking courses there. It was difficult, some of the things I've experienced, but I don't like talking about them in honor of, family and relatives and so forth. And people know a little bit about what happened. Some people in the community know. But
are you referring to your accident?
No.
Okay.
Something else. I'm referring to early trauma.
Oh, okay. I understand.
And other traumas.
Yep. Okay.
The accident being one of them. So,
okay.
But I've come to understand that, and Dalibor came in and helped me with it conceptually, which helped bring it all together.
Yeah.
Which you're going to talk about in a bit. So, but anyway, the paradigm that I have now about forgiveness is realizing that it's not about the old Christian value of turn the other cheek, or to forgive someone so that you can feel better about yourself, or to forgive someone because it's supposed to let you get rid of your guilt. So that was always the big thing in the Christian churches. There must be something you did to bring this on, So you have to forgive yourself. And the perspective that I have now is that forgiveness is not about accepting anyone's cruelty or tolerating anyone's behaviors that are harmful to themselves or to others or to me. It's more about understanding that there's something really wrong within that person. That person is created an entrapment for themselves because they have gone through something traumatic, or they have some kind of pain, or someone injured them, or someone took something from them. They're very hurt and damaged people, and so they spend a good deal of time figuring out how to get under your skin and how to turn all of that hostility and all of that feeling that they can't deal with within their own selves by transferring it to you, to someone they target. And it's about implanting those feelings and emotions and memories into your cellular structure, into your body. Okay? So, because the brain has memory cells, and the brain can be a trap for you too if your thoughts are filled with constant reminders about these memories that make you so uncomfortable. So forgiveness has become more of an act of love than an act of, feeling like I need justice and I need revenge. And instead of filling myself with I hope you get what's coming to you someday attitude. I just release it all now. I don't accept those memory cells that were infected by the other person's actions, and I put it back to them in a loving way. So I can say to them, I now release this from my cellular memory in such a way that I may always remember, or I might not ever forget, but I won't live in the memory, and I won't allow your continual actions or the triggering of those memories about what you did, said about me affect me in the same way. Control my focus, take away my power and my divinity, because I can overcome those emotions and I can navigate life without that memory. I don't need that memory of what you did in my life. And so I'm not allowing you to store it in me anymore. You can't offload your malice, your harmfulness, your whatever your bag is. You can't offload it into my memory anymore. You can't bring it to me. And so when new things happen, when people do, and I haven't had that happen in a long time, but when somebody does do something, I'm ready because I'll be able to recognize it from the lessons that I learned. I don't have to remember these things if I don't want to. They can be stored away and I can deal with them, and cleanse myself. But what I'm saying to the other person is I'm not giving you that kind of power over me. You're the kind of person that creates trauma and drama, and you're the type of person that uses people and manipulates people and does things of harm to yourself and to others. And so with love and appreciation for the lesson, gratitude for the lesson learned, I'm now releasing it back to you and putting it back into your memory so that you can see what you've done, so that you don't go around feeling like you have to harm people again. So I'm giving it back, but in a loving way, because these people don't know how to get help. They don't know. They might not even be aware that they're acting this way or that they're doing things. They might not be doing it deliberately, or they're doing it deliberately because they're just screwed up and they don't know what's wrong with them. And they keep doing it over and over and over, and they never self-correct. They're stuck in a cycle. Well, so am I if I keep remembering this stuff that happened when I was 4 years old, or that happened when I was a teenager, or that would happen during the bus accident when I was 50. If I keep going back to those places of memory and keep getting triggered by it and letting it manage my life in such a way that I'm dysfunctional, or I cry at the drop of a pin if somebody looks at me the wrong way, that's just giving my own divinity away and my own self-respect, my self-appreciation, my feeling of self-worthiness. You don't have permission anymore to do that. I do not give you permission to download your junk on me. So whatever it is you're doing, play your little reindeer games, but go get fixed. Go get help. Okay? And I will send you all the love I can of love and light from all the angels and all my guides. I will send them to you. Or if you want to sit down and do positive affirmations and you come to me and you say, I need to change. I'm sorry for what I did, for this, that, and the other. I don't want to be this way anymore. I won't turn you away. I'll sit down with you and help you write affirmations. I'll do whatever it takes to help you shift that energy within yourself if you want some help. But I'm not going to hang out with you on a regular basis, and I'm not going to trust you anymore with certain things. That's not unconditional love. Unconditional love is accepting the fact that I understand and see the problems that you have created for yourself within your own self. I understand that it's not mine. Okay, so I love you and I wish the very best outcome for you. Even if you killed somebody I know, I might not appreciate it, but I don't want to see you burn. I don't want to see you die. I don't want to see you beaten. I don't want to see you punished. I want to see you fixed. I want you to heal yourself before you take it over to the other side, because you're going to have a hard time dealing with your own judgment of your own self when you cross over, if you take this crap with you. So I just want you to be better, feel better, do better, not harm anybody else, and realize there's a way out of this to break this cycle, just like I'm breaking the cycle by not accepting it, You can break the cycle by not accepting that behavior within your own self. So that's how I view forgiveness. I know it sounds a little complicated, but it really does have a biological impact on you. And I got that download from our dear friend Dalibor when I was getting ready for this. And Lori has a statement that she can make regarding what he told us. But there is a reason for not carrying this kind of energy in your body, because it has a terrible effect on your body parts and in your mind and everything else. But it's also affecting the person that's performing the act of harm. So thanks for giving me the time to say all that, but I really wanted to, it's just a different way of looking at forgiveness and looking at what's going on, is the recognition that others are in trouble. They need healing because we're all one. And if I just say, well, I hope you get what's coming to you, or I hope you fry in hell for what you did. If I take that attitude, then I'm saying it to myself because I'm part of the one universal oneness. So why would I wish that on you? That's ego running amok. That's my ego saying, hey, I'm better than you. Or I'm condemning you for the rest of your life because of what you did. That's ego. That's not coming from a heart space. I would rather be the kind of person that says, I'm not going to let my ego run amok and give me that kind of feeling or emotion, because I don't want to go to bed at night feeling that way about other people. I don't care what you did. I don't want to feel that way about you. So I would rather you heal, and I would rather send that healing energy to you in the process of cleaning up my own act. Thank you.
All right. That was quite the soapbox.
Sorry.
No, don't be. It was awesome. It was awesome, and it was heartfelt too. And we picked up on that. I'm just making light of it.
That's okay. You're allowed.
Oh, cool.
I forgive you. No, I'm just.
Oh, okay. Forgiveness is
There's
taken.
nothing to forgive you for. I'm just messing with you.
I love that. Thank you for expressing that. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Sophia, how about you? What is your understanding of forgiveness? I understand you had a conversation with Spirit, and you were able to take some notes, I take it?
Yeah. I wrestled with a lot for a long time, like most of us. And one thing that I found is it's like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. You're making a lot of noise energetically, but you're not going anywhere. Because, like, we all know I'm not Christian, okay? Day one. So my approach to this doesn't come from a place of I owe somebody something or what would this deity do? It's more of what frequency do I desire in my sacred earth walk? And not all infractions are created equal.
True.
For a comparison for me, it's like, getting your car door dinged, cancel clear, in a parking lot.
Clear. I love that.
Yeah. What you speak about comes about.
Yeah.
Or is it, a holy cow, Batman, you're going to end up on YouTube situation? So anyway, I employed my philosopher. I encourage meditation with not only your higher self or whatever you feel healthy to subscribe to, but since I'm an active medium, I have a team that we serve together. So my philosopher is who I dialed into. So at the top of the page, we have forgiveness. How do we forgive? What I do, what I'm impressed, what applies to my walk according to my philosopher, finding the wound, finding the hurt, finding if I allowed it. Because you can't get to the root of a problem or the reaction or the shift in the energy signature until you can find the source. Furthermore, my dad was very Christian, Chaplain Jim with Over the Road Ministries. Missed that dude to death. But he would always tell me, because I had a very healthy appetite for anger and all the things that come along with it. Now we're on the other end of the scale. But he would tell me over and over, Sophia, hate the sin, love the sinner. And that just never resonated with me until I reworded it. So for him, sin was the behavior, the actions, that confronted his God. And for me, it's the behavior that pulls the vibration down to an unhealthy frequency. So for me, it's boundary behavior, love without reservation. My love is not conditional. I did learn that from him, and it stuck. But realizing that just because you don't care for what somebody's doing or saying, and this is in degrees, then, you still have to vibrate at the highest frequency to be a healthy medium person. It can be dangerous for people like me to entertain a consistent low vibration with the law of attraction. So, let's see. This is where the writing gets interesting because I started to fade away. All right. Yeah, that's when I kind of moved away. Dr. Schultz is my philosopher, and some I have found don't know what happened. I have too much respect for them and myself to have an unreasonable conversation. That's Havamal right there. And it's kind of cool that he brought that in because it strictly says in the Havamal not to converse or interact with unreasonable people. All right. Definition of an unreasonable person: someone who is intoxicated. The last thing you want to do is have a big. That's why I don't read for people that are intoxicated because they're at the wrong frequency. And let's see. Unreasonable would be sociopaths, narcissist, toxic. It's like they get into this toxic cycle. Like they've been doing it for so long. They get up, they bitch about the weather. They bitch about, and I feel we all can fall into that behavior, but having the ability to check ourselves. I think that's the difference. When we can self-recognize what we're doing, that's the difference. That's when you start coming back to the reasonable interaction with other people. Chronic negativity, same thing. And then or a toxic rigid mindset. It's like, if you do this, you're going here. If you don't do this, like the ultimatum thing. But then navigating those people, but not employing judgment, because when you're judging someone else, in my experience, it all it does is bring your frequency down. I mean, I don't know. That's what, okay. Back to my philosopher. It is, and it's temporary, check back in with that person, because people change. We're supposed to change. No one has to understand your process. Everybody deals with it differently, and that's okay. Dr. Spock got a lot of shit right, but he also got a lot of shit wrong.
Yeah.
Let's see. We must remain in a place of balance, mind, body, spirit. When it comes to forgiveness, a lot of that has to do with the emotional body, because it's our feelings. So I would say it's our job, no matter what, to one, reach out for help if that type of trauma or situation has that kind of intensity. Because I don't feel that we were, and we go with that feeling. I don't feel that we're meant to walk alone. And as tragic as some trauma is, I've met some of the most beautiful people that have come across my path because I was willing to say the most difficult spell. And that's help. Because your ego is instantly in the back row. And it doesn't like that. But it's necessary.
Yep.
especially if that emotional wound is causing a cognitive dysfunction. So that's my our and then he drew a triangle: mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. There's equal space, there's equal weight, but the importance to be balanced, or at least have the intention of being the best version of who you are. So as far as forgiveness is concerned, it's my responsibility to be happy and healthy and growing. That's me. If I'm not happy and I'm not healthy and I'm not growing, that no one can do that but me. And my happiness, my health, and my wealth, it's different from others. So that's why when I'm navigating somebody on either a different side of a spectrum, or we're just not agreeing, and it's just like happiness, health, and wealth, whatever that is to you. Because in my opinion, when we try to pigeonhole our intention, we don't see the whole picture. So that's why you've heard me over and over again, for my highest and best or something better, because I'm giving spirit room to work in my life that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So let's see. And it's okay to be different. That's one thing about our culture that just slays me. They're like, if you don't do it A, B, C, D, you're doing it wrong. Well, I beg to differ. You're doing it. Screw the order for a minute. You're addressing a situation that may cause problems for the rest of your earth walk. How long do you want to walk with that fetter? And then finally, and this is where Delabore popped in. Love you and shit, buddy. I miss his voice. Write a letter to the situation. Write a letter to the person. Write a letter to yourself at that age, because the thoughts, the swords, that they'll sit there and bounce around in your mind until you're speaking a different language. You have to turn it into a wand, especially if you know what you're dealing with. Team wand, purple, bold print, pilot, profile, I don't care, crown, mascara, write it down. Because your ego is going to see that. And I've had many moments where I've written something down out of anger, wanting to not be the nicest person. I'm a lot nicer than I used to be, but it sleeps. It's not dead. Okay. And when my ego sees what my subconscious and my heart and my emotional body are saying, it's like, oh, we might want to navigate this a little differently. It's happened to me multiple times. And if it will help someone else, that's why I'm being a little vulnerable right now. And it doesn't have to be written. It can be a craft. It can be a jigsaw puzzle. It can be a painting. It can be a walk. It can be yoga. It can be Tai Chi. I don't care. And that's where a lot of my, at least for my siblings, tilt my hand. I hope they see this. Genetically similar strangers.
Really?
Sorry, YouTube. My bad. But when I have tattoos for all of them, and I did that just to push it out, just to look at it one last time and say, I don't care what you did or didn't do. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, and then in closing, and thank you for all your precious and lovely time, honor the pain. Honor it.
Agreed.
It's just like, this is me honoring my pain. Missing Delabore is exactly what this is. And shit. I love him. I'm going to remember him. And there's nothing anybody can do about it, including him. And
he loves it.
Right. I know he does.
He loves it.
And then, if you do choose to write, or entertaining that activity of exercising your right to explore your feelings so you can allow yourself the space to heal, is what am I feeling and why? Put the cheese on the cracker. If you're going to walk up to the buffet, you need to put some on your plate. What am I feeling and why? And release it. And it's mandatory if you don't release something, it turns into regret. And like I said earlier, when I started my soapbox, all it does is pull your signature down, and like attracts like. And I've had enough low vibrational crapola for one lifetime. I'm not going to do it on purpose anymore. But well, thank you. Yeah. And then last sentence, promise. Well, probably I'm not going to promise that. Is when you release something, it's like the full moon ceremonies that we have online at camp that are free. When we release something, we ask for something in equal measure. So if you're angry, really angry, then you need to employ something that's going to be just as heavy and just as intense as what you're releasing, because you have to honor the law of balance. So
absolutely.
Forgiveness doesn't mean, oh, I'm sorry, you can keep abusing me or mistreating me. No, that's not what that means to me. So now you're wondering, now you know. Love yous.
So you're saying forgiveness has boundaries. So you can forgive, but you don't have to like play with that energy.
Right.
You can see it for what it is. You can be the observer and you can recognize it. And then you can step back and say, these are my boundaries.
If it's easy, it's probably not going to work. So.
Wow. Cool.
Namaste, my friends.
Awesome, Sophia. Thank you. And your little friend too.
Yeah. Little
Delabore Jr.
I was going to think about calling him Deli, or Deli.
Oh, that's cute. I like Deli. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just screwing around.
He's sporting that chain. I love that.
I know.
That's cool.
You could name him Cookie Shack.
Oh,
Cookies, little cookie.
Yeah,
he was one smart little cookie.
It's these kind of cookies.
Yeah,
this is the stuff.
Thank you, Sophia.
I know.
Yeah, I feel you, Zach. Well, it's good to have you with us tonight, Grandpa Brian. And I'm wondering, what is your understanding of forgiveness and how do you operate with that?
For me, forgiveness is one of the first steps in healing. Not only are you doing it for the other person, you're doing it for yourself. It's almost like you're releasing both of you from the situation that happened. Because you never know, this could be a karmic cycle with this person where they've done stuff to you lifetime after lifetime and you've never forgiven them for this. And it's something that you have to learn to be able to forgive that person or the situation in this lifetime. So yeah, some of them are just occurring in this lifetime, but I think there's other situations that are reoccurring situations. You got to really learn which one of those. It's awesome to forgive, especially if you're forgiving yourself for something that you did, because you forgive yourself. Wouldn't you want that other person to forgive you? Wouldn't that make you feel better that they also forgive you? And you forgiving them, maybe that will help them actually forgive themselves for what they did. You never know, but it's a release. Like a couple, you're releasing that trauma out of your body, because if you don't release it, it's going to end up manifesting as a sickness or an illness or a pain in you. It's always way better to release. I know I'm stubborn and sometimes I like to hold on to grudges, but that's the Taurus in me. But I have learned to just let it go. I had a friend 27 years, and when their friendship ended, he said the most horriblest things to me. I mean, just basically saying, I wish you were dead. And it only took me about a month to get over that and forgive him.
But it affected you strongly, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. 27 years, we were like brothers. I mean, we hung out almost every single day for 27 years. And yeah, it affected me strongly a bit. Within a month, I realized I can't let it eat at me. So I just forgave him. I didn't call and tell him I forgave him. I just said I forgive him. I released myself from the situation. Do I hate him? No. Do I still love him like a brother? Yes. Even though the friendship will never happen again. He's a fellow human, and I've loved him as a brother, even though he did and said what he said to me. I still love him as a brother.
When you were going through this and you had that month where you were really absorbing these feelings, did you notice anything with your body, how your body might have been reacting? Did you get a cold, sniffles, anything of that nature?
No, but I had trouble sleeping, and when I did sleep, it felt like I didn't sleep. So it was like, it was always in my subconscious to keeping me restless through the course of the night. And it was like I was dragging ass every single day, which made me irritable because I felt like I had no rest. And then you start acting out against people unwillingly because you're so drained physically that it's affecting you emotionally. And then once I started realizing, I was like, man, this is really affecting my sleep. And I was like, all right, forgive him, let go of the situation.
What made it click for you when you consciously made the decision to go, you know what? I need to stop this. I need to stop feeling like this. What was the trigger? Was there any kind of a trigger or anything like that for you that you realized I can't keep doing this?
Yeah, when I got shitty with someone at work that didn't do anything wrong, I just got shitty with them because, and it was in the morning when I knew I slept that night, but it felt like I had 2 hours of sleep, and I was just like, well, you know, F you, screw you, blah, 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 rah, 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 rah.
You gave them both horns, didn't you?
Exactly. And then it was like, why in the fuck did I do that? I was like, what is going on with me? And then I realized this anger that I had from the situation that went on, I was like, it's eating at me. And I was like, okay, I forgive you, buddy. I was like, it's done. It's over with. I'm not going to let it control my life or control my emotions or control any aspect of me. I'll release it.
Did you forgive him? Was he aware of your forgiveness, or did you do it within yourself? Was he aware of the fact that you forgave him?
I did it within myself because I knew no matter what I said, even if I called him out and said I was sorry, he probably still would have just ripped into me because the family was negative. His dad and brother hated each other, didn't talk. He hated his mom. Even when he found out that his mom passed away, he said, I'm glad the FNB is dead. So once I realized, okay, I can't even call him and say I'm sorry because there's so much negativity in that family, and it's a family cycle, that I knew no matter what I said to him, it wasn't going to matter.
So you forgave him because that was what was in your best interest. That's what you needed to do. So
Correct.
It wasn't necessary for him to even know about it. It was just important to do that within yourself. And I think that's a really valid point.
Right. To release myself from the situation and let it stop controlling me. I did call him when I found out his dad passed away. And, you know, I told him I was sorry because, you know, like I said, 20 friends, 27 years, I knew his whole family. And he said, I really appreciate that. And that was about all the conversation. And we hung up and we haven't talked since. But it was a polite conversation. I think the reason why it might have been a polite conversation is because of when I forgave him.
So you had a pre-birth planning of being friends and then having this relationship, and then you being hurt by him, I believe, was so that you could experience that hurt from someone who really believed and knew had your back. So it was a lesson for you. and he was the one that had the strength to do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it could have been, this is something that you need to really learn how to forgive someone for, because, you know, 27 years and to be betrayed like that, you know, it's.
So you have every reason and every right to feel the way you do. And they didn't really deserve your forgiveness, but you found a way to work through it so that it was benefiting you and no one else. So that is, that's incredible.
Yep. And that's what help me heal from the situation. After that, I was no longer bothered or hurt by what he said or what he did. It was a situation. I released myself from the situation. It's the past. Why look in the past? It's time to just keep moving forward.
In every relationship, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to every single relationship you'll ever have. It runs its course. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've said that many a times.
Yep. Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Grandpa Brian.
You're welcome.
That was really insightful. Miss Hannah Ray, welcome tonight. It's good to have you with us.
It's good to see you.
What is your understanding of forgiveness? What's your take on it and your unique view?
Wow. In my experience, it comes in layers. In some respective situations, forgiveness does not need to happen then and there. Growing up, I guess I've gone through my fair share of things, and I forgave them then and there. I knew what was wrong, but I forgave them then and there, but I didn't have the concept of self-boundaries. So I forgave without boundaries, and it led me into some rough roads. So I had to have a period of where so it's like I allowed them to do the things, if that makes sense.
It does.
And I believe that in any situation, it's like a triangle. 33 is responsible for the environment. 33 is responsible for the abuser or the doer, and then 33 is responsible for the one receiving the situation. And that might be hard to hear, but what I mean by that is you probably didn't, in some respective, most situations, because like people who've gone through things that didn't understand their self-autonomy, they go through things and they needed to be protected. But say we are aware of our autonomy. Simply, we didn't have the tools to understand self-respect. And that could be your 33%.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a very respectable situations. In some situations that doesn't apply, but and when we talk about forgiveness, the concept of grief or anger are very popular in that conversation. When I see people on my table, I can tell when people are holding on to stuff, because 9 times out of 10, the way it manifests is either in stuck hips or inflammation in the hands. Most commonly, arthritis. The second that I see arthritis in the hands or inflammation in the hands, I'm like, okay, what are we holding on to? How'd you know? Because your body shows it. Your body's telling you. What do we need to release? And then we go on from there. And another thing too, we are very aware of the 7 energy pillars or chakras in the body, but we have an 8th. We have like a lot, but we have one in the middle of our throat and our heart. It's called the thymus chakra, and it's called the unconditional forgiveness. And it's no coincidence that it's in between the heart and the throat, speaking from the heart, letting it go, letting it out. These parts right here also store childhood trauma and betrayal. So, and this is also where grief and happiness reside as well. So it's
where did you say the childhood trauma was stored?
Right here.
Shoulders.
I read something.
Pecs.
I read something earlier today, and I was sharing it with Lori. Childhood trauma is most commonly held in the core of the body, the stomach, abdomen, lower back, as well as the upper torso, which is what you're saying, the
Right.
chest, shoulders, and spine.
So here, the spine stores everything, a lot of the memory of the body. The whole body really does. The core, it comes into play with self-confidence and self-responsibility with due environment. So
Right.
this is more what has been done onto you and how you responded to it. The core is more how you dealt with it and how you were responsible for getting yourself in and or out of the situation. And
Yeah.
so another, okay, whoa. So I have a story too. I love this story
Go
so
ahead,
much.
Hannah. Yep.
So cancer is a disease that I believe is manifested through resentment. And resentment in it, that energy is so stuck and stagnant that anybody who holds on to resentment, they'll have a blockage. It's a very dense energy. And it can be the causation of cancer. And a man, he has a story. He said that he has cancer, and so he went on about finding like the love and light perspective and view of healing his wound with his mom. And he's like, I'm trying to be very loving and kind, and he didn't find any help with that. And then he's like, okay, I need to release my true, authentic emotion to what happened. Okay, what does that look like? What do I wish I would have said? And then he starts saying, F, like in the mirror, he's like, F you, mom, I didn't deserve what you did to me. I deserved this. And he spoke from his heart out. He released it. His cancer shrunk. And now he's cancer free. So forgiveness, I believe, is a goal. It's a goal. It's a great goal to have, but it's not necessary for healing. But to have the goal of forgiveness, you're not probably going to walk through all forgiving and love and light situations. You're probably going to spew out some gunk. You need to get that stuff out.
Right.
And then after the fact, okay, whoa, coming back in, filling that up with, okay, I forgive myself for being in that situation, allowing myself to believe those lies and finding better perspectives.
Can I ask you your opinion or question? I'm surely you've noticed some people in the community that, or the circles you've traveled in, that have released, wholeheartedly released, and had numerous sessions perhaps even, and feel that they've let go, and they feel that they've moved on, and they feel more complete, but the cancer hasn't gone away. Or the ailment is still there. And they search and search and search their heart looking for an answer. What am I still holding on to? And it either hasn't been revealed to them yet, or it hasn't surfaced, or they can't find it, or they don't know it. But I do know this, in working with some of these folks, and I'm not an energy healer like the rest of you are trained in Reiki and all that, but just dealing with people that I love, people that I know, they were so browbeaten by certain Christian faiths about, especially, Christian scientists, that you're bringing this on and you have a demon in you, or you have dark energy in you, or you're bringing this on and you're never going to heal because you can't let go. And so they're treated differently in that environment, in a very it's not unconditional love. It's not certainly not what I would consider
the container
loving way. So how do you help people how do you all help people like that are stuck in a cycle, or that are not healing, but they feel like they've released and let everything go?
In my personal practice, I listen, and I kind of have a hard time with feeling that everything somebody says is valid, but I mean, I treat it as, okay, this is how you feel. And I show them unconditional love. That's all I can do, because I feel like what is happening in their situation is that they're Not that it's not a bad thing, but they're in a state of probably fear. And with fear, the only thing that can combat it is unconditional love.
Okay.
If someone is going on and on and on about something like that, I'll have to show you this book. I believe that it has to do with mindset too. I'm not sure how I would, because I've met someone like that, and the only thing that, like, if they were going on, yeah, I would just give them an ear of like, okay, if that's what you feel, okay, let's get it out. Let's get it all out.
Yeah.
That's how I think I would handle that.
So when you're holding on to the resentment and all this energy, it manifests in the body. It literally gets into the cellular level.
Yes.
Yeah. So cancer can be, also genetics, and you may have chosen a body that has that propensity for it. But for most of us, holding those types of emotions and anger and resentment and not being able to forgive is a manifestation of that energy through your cells.
I think back to the book. I want to be right in it, but they studied women with breast cancer, and they put them in 4 control groups. People who believed that they could beat it, and they did anything and everything. They changed their diet. They knew they had it. They started exercising. They knew that they could. There was complete confidence.
Yeah.
And then the second control group, they didn't believe that they could, and they didn't do anything. They didn't have confidence. And then there was another control group of literally gaslighting themselves into, I don't have it. Nope. Not there. They didn't do anything. They just told themselves that it wasn't there. And there was another control group. I think it was people who tried a little bit, but then they were like, I don't know if I can get over it. Well, the people who had that half confidence and no confidence, they didn't survive past 4 years after diagnosis.
Placebo effect.
The people that gaslit themselves and changed everything. They knew they had it. They told themselves they had it, but they knew that they got it and that would beat it. They lived well past 4 years after diagnosis. So I think that it does have to do with mindset and believing and having self-confidence that I can get out of this situation. And now, say with like blindness, the people or deafness, people who are deaf, they don't care. They don't think it's a bad thing. And I know it's people's perception of what, how they handle disease. But there's people in wheelchairs that I find more optimistic than people who live a luxurious life. So it's about how we handle the situation.
Yeah.
Now, again, I had to go through the people who have created environments for me, knowing that I didn't have the autonomy to do anything about it. I couldn't forgive them for a long time because I was still searching for the self boundaries and the self preservation and the self love, because that's what that is. So what healing and forgiveness may look like is punching pillows, telling people to F off, and then coming into the light and being like, okay, I can forgive myself for putting you through that, and pardoning people or forgiving them, going the extra mile, even unconditionally forgiving them and being in the Christ consciousness. That's not everybody's path, but it is some.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you for that, Hannah. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you. Yep. Yeah.
Just Zach. Zach. I'm very curious as to what your understanding of forgiveness is. And do you forgive? Do you know how to forgive? Do you hold grudges? Do you deal with any of that? What's your process?
I love what everyone else has said, and I'll probably just say the same thing in a bit different terminology, and that'll resonate with different people. I think forgetting is just as important as remembering, and remembering is just as important as forgetting. So when we remember, we're able to avoid repeating patterns. We're able to protect ourselves, create boundaries. And when we forget, we're able to live our life peacefully, as long as we remember enough to avoid the patterns.
That's what I was saying. Just remember just enough to set boundaries. Yep.
And when I've experienced high spiritual states sometimes, or just extreme spiritual states, I've really found a connection to, and someone brought up the term collective unconsciousness before we started talking, the collective unconscious or the collective subconscious. And I've really experienced how much pain there is. And when you meditate on pain of yourself, or more so of other people, it allows us to come to the realization of how valuable forgiveness is. And that doesn't mean we have to do it, but we do have to forgive ourselves, because we're going to have to learn that eventually. And so if we practice forgiving ourselves, it'll be a lot easier for us to transition as we move through higher, or not even higher, just different stages of being. And then, like we were talking at group at All My Relations, we don't have to forgive other people. Heather was saying she saw a child who had been molested by a yard worker, and she was a responding officer in the event. And she was so angry at that officer, and she had kind of held on to that anger for years. And she took a class, and the teacher was talking about it. They were a Christian teacher, but Heather was so surprised because they said, you don't have to forgive other people. You have to let it go, though. He used the term pardon them, like a president saying, okay, you were convicted of this felony, but the president has the authority to pardon the person and let them out of prison. And so you wouldn't want to enable someone to cause this harm, of course. But in order for, like everyone else has said, in order for your mental peace, you have to be able to release it and get rid of it from yourself.
And that, I think, is the most important person to forgive.
Well,
And
Zach,
forgiving yourself is what you have to do.
You bring up a very valid and important point here in my rant. I didn't address it as well as I could have, but I've got friends who have experienced some terrible, terrible things. And when it came time to have a case closure where the death penalty was involved, you vote your consciousness. In other words, you if you have a certain set of criteria or a certain set of values or beliefs, and you see a person doing harm, terrible things to other people, it's not, forgiveness is not letting them off the hook. It's, like you said, finding that ability within yourself to pardon them temporarily, or to hope that they find healing, hope that they find, but they still have to face up to their responsibility of the actions. And as citizens of the unified community, spirituality to me is not about letting people go and get away with things that are going to continue to harm other people. That person could go back on the street and do the same thing to another child. And it might be a lesson that the child was here to learn with their agreement and the soul agreement. I get all that. But that agreement was with that child. It's not carte blanche for that soul, which may have been damaged in the process of that experiment, that life's lesson, that may have corrupted them in such a way that they can't escape being what they've turned into. And they might do it to numerous other people. And so spiritual people can still be spiritual and still practice forgiveness, but at the same time, still do what they need to do in citizenship to ensure that people like that are taken off the street and that they're dealt with whatever laws or so I'm not saying let them get away with it or let them loose and cut them loose on society. They themselves still have part of their lesson to learn, and that is, what are the repercussions of what I've done? Because maybe that will wake them up. Maybe that will keep them from harming themselves or others. Go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I was just
She's
agreeing
agreeing with you.
Oh, I couldn't tell because of the corner of the. I was
Got it.
looking at Zach, but I think I'm on the same page with you, Zach. Am I right? It's not that we're letting them off the hook.
Yeah, I think
By
the
using
word
the word
pardon is a
pardoning.
little difficult to use here because that was what resonated with Heather and the teacher. With me, I get where he's coming from, but it does make a person think he meant let them off the hook. And I don't think that's the way it was intended.
No.
But it does have that connotation.
I agree with you, Zach. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, more so focusing on the forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to release that. Being mad, yes, still accepting your emotions or feeling hurt, feeling traumatized, accepting all of that, working through it. And over the course of, it may take a long time to do that.
How do you forgive yourself, Zach?
Releasing it.
How does a person forgive themselves? What do you tell the person that's out there watching right now, no matter what's going on in their life? How do I forgive myself? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
When I realized I had made some really life-changing, difficult, and not the best decisions, what I did was I accepted I am now here and I'm still alive. So all I can do is continue on from here.
Hannah's got a question, but before that, Sophia had hers up. I'm going to give the floor to Sophia real quick and then come to you, Hannah.
Yeah, it's real brief. The reason that I like pardon better than forgiveness, concerning that situation that you spoke of, Zach, is because when I'm in a position to where that kind of energy exchange is necessary, I pardon them because I'm sparing them my wrath and giving it to source. That helps me let it go because nobody gets away with anything. Eventually, it's going to come home. And while I think it's healthy to navigate reaction and emotion, if you don't come to some kind of agreement with yourself, depending on the infraction, it can put someone like me out of service. And I don't have time for that. So I basically put my hands up and I'm like, Spirit, or my protectors. If somebody's coming at me on purpose for no good reason, go get them, boys. And I let it go.
Interesting. Awesome. Hannah?
I have a few thoughts.
Sure.
My first thought is I'm starting to feel like people who have gone through dense experiences of trauma, going through the path of forgiveness, are basically learning selflessness, unconditional selflessness. And another thought was anger is such a powerful, powerful, powerful emotion that gets things done. It is not a negative experience. It is an emotion that literally gets things moving.
Catalyst.
Gets things moving. Yeah. It's like I'm inspired, I'm passionate about change for being the root of unconditional love even. And then we're taught by Christianity or religions or people who don't know how to handle their emotions that, hey, anger, be depressed. No. And then you get people who don't know what to do with their creative center. they don't know how to create.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any personal power. They become avoidant. Like there's a lot of things that happen with people who don't know how to experience anger healthily, because they think, oh, I'm angry, I must have wrath on you. Oh, I'm angry, I must self-destruct. And or both.
Is someone responsible for making you angry?
Is someone no.
Mm-hmm.
But it
who's
might be
responsible feeling
myself,
that?
Ourselves. But that doesn't mean that, say, someone comes in, does something that's, I'm gonna be angry, but that doesn't mean I'm going to project that on them. Like, hey, I'm angry because you did this, and I need to take a second, and then I need to come back and have some boundaries, because what the heck was that?
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I wanted to have some fun with the question you gave Zach of what would you tell someone how to forgive themselves?
Mm-hmm.
My first thought was shame and guilt are two different things. Shame is, I am a bad person.
Yep.
Guilt is, oh, I did something bad.
Mm-hmm.
And through when given the container of unconditional love, most of the time people can choose to do to see themselves as whole in what they've done wrong, and they experience the guilt and regret or sorrow or grief or the root of the situation of why they act the way that they act toward people. And it's really easy to sometimes get into a shame spiral, but guilt you can do something with. Getting away from shame and feeling, oh, I did something bad. How do I change? Because that's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
How do I treat people with love? And that reflects back to you love, because you're like, okay, I love myself. I'm going to be expressing that outward. So
I just can't bring myself to. I can go to an adult who's developed a certain level of maturity and ask the adult that question, Lori, who about who's making you feel that way, but I can't do it to a child that's going through it at age 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15.
Right.
They're just simply not mature enough yet to process
you
and
don't understand your
that they can flip their own script around, and
I would agree in that
they have
situation.
to,
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or even if they're just recently, say you're 35, 4 years old, and you get mugged and you get beaten and you get hurt, and you have to have time to process the post-traumatic stress of it all. That could take a while. And then when the person starts healing from that, then start bringing them around spiritually to now examine your own inner self and your own how you feel about this. Look, people, it took me 62, 63 years to get to the point where I could do certain things and move on. So.
Yeah. Go ahead real quick. And then I really want to get to Nick and Jasmine. Yes.
I completely understand with that. And what's helped me being in a forgiving energy is realizing that the people who have done wrong to me, they just simply didn't have the container for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you only know someone as deep as you met yourself. And I just kind of had to accept that too.
Mm-hmm.
And with Beloved Abstract, they just said something. A wound is something the ego can attach to. I don't remember exactly what they said. I can agree with that. I just wanted to share my thought.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that's necessary in some cases, because with me, I let it go. Like growing up, I was like, okay, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to be in this loving energy. But like moths to a flame, I didn't understand boundaries. I didn't understand my personal power. I didn't understand these things because I literally felt like I was operating on this unconditional love frequency. And I didn't understand that nobody was there yet. And I did need to attach to it for a little while. Everyone's healing looks a bit different, but through my experience, I felt like I needed to attach it just so I can learn that self-preservation. So we can say this, oh, it's just an ego thing. It's an ego thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing either. Because at the same time, you know, we're letting go of all these things. That's great. I love it. There does need justice with some things too. Lovingly. But where are we holding people accountable?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Hannah. Really appreciate you sharing that. So Nick and Jasmine, I'll start with Nick. Yeah, we're going to start with you, Nick. What is your understanding of forgiveness? I know you've got a lot to say about this. You've been absorbing a lot of what people are saying, but I know that you have your own ideas about that. So would you please share?
Okay, so on face value, my approach is very simple and straightforward. But to really understand how it works, it gets very complicated in the meat and potatoes of it. So I'm just going to explain my process and then I'll go into the details.
Okay.
So I like winning. What is winning? Winning is getting the results that I want. Okay.
Yeah.
So if with all the archaic humanism things that I've learned, one of those ways of going about winning is to stay on a positive spectrum, and forgiveness is one of those emotions that is required to do so. Why? Because if you do not forgive, you go into these certain concepts like how Confucius says, if you're going out for revenge, prepare to dig 2 graves. Why would I dig my own grave when I want to win? It's just not logical.
Why bonk yourself over the head if you want to win the race?
Why am I shooting myself in the foot when I can get onto a pedestal of higher knowing and living and technically makes it the best revenge possible? And I didn't even have to lift a finger against whoever it was that is required of the forgiveness. So it's very straightforward. I like winning, so I'm going to make the choices that gives me the life that I know I deserve. And if that means that I have to let go of aggressors and not only other aggressors, but my own aggression towards other people, learning how to forgive myself on top of that, then that's what I'm going to strive for. So very simple, but the most illogical thing that I've ever come across in my learnings is emotion. Emotion in nature is the most illogical concept known to man. So to understand this, you have to learn how to approach it in an illogical sense. And that, in a paradox fashion, makes it make sense. So we're going to dive into some hermetics in regards to this concept. So the hermetic principle of gender. Everything in existence has either feminine energy or masculine energy. Everything technically has both, but the only thing that is truly on equilibrium with those energies is source. Everything else tends to have either more masculine to it or more feminine, and it might be 49 to 50%, but one is usually more dominant than the other in the entity or individual or so on. Even an object, like we consider round things feminine, while pointy things are considered masculine, just as an example. Even in magic, like if you look at the
you're speaking of the phallus
standpoint. Well, I was going to bring up the triangles that led to that, but like with the zodiacs, each one has an element associated with them. If you ever paid attention to it, you would notice that 2 of the zodiac signs are a pointed triangle, and 2 other zodiac signs are a downwards pointed triangle, symbolic for showing that 2 signs have masculine energy while the other 2 have feminine, which is also symbolic of, like you said, the phallus pointing up and the womb pointing down. It's very symbolic, but the more you dive into it, the more it correlates, and the more you go like, oh my God, it's that simple yet so complicated at the same time. But anyways, the principle of gender. So I just explained to you the logic side of forgiving, but that's not enough because we are threefold in nature. You have to have more than just the logical side, because the logical side will impress your conscious mind, but it will not impress your subconscious mind, because your subconscious in nature is feminine. Your feminine side is going to look at you and go, no, that's bullshit. We're not doing it that simple. There's A, B, C, D that's unresolved. How can you live with yourself going to that approach? So it's not just acknowledging your conscious forgiveness. You have to figure out how to impress your subconscious in your forgiveness as well. So how do you do that? Well, you have to have emotional intelligence. To be able to have emotional intelligence, you need to understand what emotions actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming to find out that not a lot of people really understand it, which is mind-boggling for me, because as a guy, I have very high emotional intelligence, so it comes easy for me. But for some reason, for most guys, it's a foreign concept. I don't know why it works that way.
I will say you are 50-50 though for your zodiacs.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But
Because they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
They're not taught.
So you have to learn how to talk to your subconscious. Like my ego and me and my higher self, we're like this. That it took a lot of like getting to know myself to a point where I would end up in meditative states of looking myself in a symbolic mirror, having a conversation with myself, but not me at the same time, if that makes sense. I was basically seeing both sides of me at the same time, and we were interacting to each other, actually getting to know each other, forming that relationship. And you would be surprised what type of power you tap into once you start doing that. Okay. It gets that deep. So once you've shown your feminine side that, yeah, I'm the man and I can take care of things, I know where we're going, I know how to handle it, and you explain it to them in a way that makes sense, where you're acknowledging the emotion. You're acknowledging the emotion and you're explaining to them how that emotion can be expressed and resolved. That's when your subconscious will go, oh, hey, okay, that's a good plan. I'll let you take lead. That's what you got to do. You feel that emotion, you acknowledge it, you express it, then you make a plan to resolve it. A plan that actually works for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to do. I can't tell you exactly how to go about that, because every person is unique. Every person has their own different perspectives, just like how all of our conscious personalities are slightly different. Like even now, like everything that they've said right now, there are some things I've agreed with and some things I've disagreed with. It gets even more complicated than that when you dive into the subconsciousness of people. Instead of seeing 4 sets, you're seeing 8 sets. It gets complicated when you are threefold plus in nature. It's just there's more facets that you have to acknowledge, more puzzle pieces you have to put together to get that harmony. So I can't tell you exactly how to do it. All I can tell you is the steps to going there, if that makes sense. And that is really sitting down with yourself and going within. It's such a cop-out phrase in the metaphysical where they go, you just gotta go within, bro. But it is mind-boggling how effective it actually is when you don't just use it as a buzzword and actually apply the knowledge. Don't just have a philosophical high about it and then move on to the next distraction. Literally understand the concept and practice it. Mm-hmm. When the shit gets weird with a why, you don't run away from it. You keep exploring.
Yep, there you go.
Yep, and
that's a healthy attitude.
I'm telling you, you will be surprised with how much power comes from that. And forgiveness is a big biggie, because like I said, not only do you have to learn how to forgive others, but you gotta forgive yourselves too, because let's face it, we're all human. We are all flawed. Every single one of us has skeletons in the closet we don't want to talk about. you got to come to terms with that's okay. That's not you anymore. That's in the past. You learned the lesson. Stop beating yourself up. Stop suffering when you don't need to suffer.
Yeah. Some people really embrace that suffering, don't they? And it's okay. That's part of the process. Yeah. That's part of the process.
Yep.
They seem to crave it, or they seem to live in it, because that's also a cry for help. Any psychiatrist will tell you that coming off like you need it, that you crave it, is just another way of masking.
Yep.
Or you're hiding behind your own ego self.
Yeah.
And you've really got something going on there, and you don't want to give it up because it feels good. And then that makes you a little bit of a sociopath, doesn't it?
And with the ego thing, realize that the ego's not doing it because it's against you. The ego is doing it because in its logic, for as illogical as it is, it's protecting you. Once you come to understand that it's not against you, it's with you, then it'll actually start working with you instead of clashing, if that makes sense. And that's one of the ways of mastering emotions. That's why I'm bringing this all up. For as complicated as it sounds, it's a necessary fundamental to understand, to tap into things like forgiveness, like love, and
well, you know, is it the chicken before the egg, or the egg before? You know, it's like I couldn't practice decent amount of forgiveness, or I couldn't truly release. I would say I was forgiving, but I wasn't really feeling it down deep, deep inside, because I had this inability or a blockage, or I couldn't let it go. Yeah. So until I could learn how to control my own reactions and emotions to it, and understand it, that how that was affecting me physically, psychologically, spiritually, I couldn't forgive. But once I was able to get a little bit more self-control, then I was able to do the releasing necessary for forgiveness. But that was just the process I went through. Other people might come at it from a completely different angle.
Yeah. So I do it in a way that a lot of you guys mentioned, where you're like, forgive but don't forget. I do. Yes, that is accurate, but I don't think that's the last step of it. I think there's more to it after that. So on an individual level, yes, to forgive but don't forget. Why? Not because you're imprinting on your subconscious that they deserve forgiveness, but you're imprinting on your subconscious that you deserve to be able to move on with your life instead of constantly being stuck in the past of that scenario and suffering for it. You cannot, if you're stuck in the past, you're going to miss the present. It's just not healthy. I'm not saying it's to get over it overnight. It's not like, that's not rational, but I am saying to at least work on it and make the necessary steps to be able to get to that point of moving on. So after that, though, as a metaphysician, we understand that it's not just us, the individual, it's all of us as a whole. And to 100% fully forgive ourselves, we have to forgive everything else around us, because it is just a reflection of what we are at the end of the day. Just because we're seeing someone acting the type of way that we can't stand doesn't mean that there is no possibility that we weren't that type of character in a different life before, or will be in a different life, because it's just a lesson that we would eventually have to go through. Yeah. Once you understand these facets, these concepts, these very far left field like things that are very hard to rationalize in a mortal body in the 3D realm, that's when you start getting higher learning. See, that thing about us humans, we might be only 3D, but we have a lot of freedoms to explore. We're not programmed to just think in absolutes. We can look at all of the gray and still make it out in the way that we want it to be. That's one of the best presents of being human, I think, that we have.
I agree.
Interesting. Hannah, you had a quick comment?
Yeah, really quick. I feel like the victim mindset really is a powerful thing. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of power in being a victim. And I feel like a lot of people who have done the abusing have been abused or traumatized in some way, and they're holding on to a victim mindset that pardons themselves from doing the said action. And I knew whenever I had a victim mindset, I pardoned myself for a lot of things that I knew that weren't right. But I can do this because they did worse. I can do these things, and people will. I've read this in a book where people, when you're around a victim, you feel like, oh, I need to be with them, or I like, you have this feeling like this magnet to them. I don't know. And getting over, not getting over, but finding the root of why we feel like victims and then empowering ourselves is a whole other path too.
Getting to the core of it. Yeah. And understanding it. Yeah. I get that. Thank you, Hannah. Jasmine.
Yes.
Over there listening. I know you're taking notes.
I've been listening.
I'm ready for you. I want to hear what you've got to say. You know the question. What is your understanding of forgiveness? Let's hear it.
I have two opinions about that, because I think there's two sides to it, right? There's two sides to every story. Are you the person who is forgiving, or are you the person asking for forgiveness? Because those are two very, it might be like the same, but the way you approach it is differently. At least for me it is, because having ADHD and being neurotypical, neurodivergent and all that stuff, I overanalyze a lot of things, and I over-intellectualize a lot of things, and I always try to think of like why. And it doesn't help that every time I was in my science classes and I was with my professor, he was always like, ask why until you cannot ask why no more. And I was like, I will live by that. So,
Guilty.
always asking, but why? And sometimes the thing is, my guides are like, I even ask why to my guides, and my guides are like, you're not going to understand, you're not going to get it. And I'm like, I don't care. Tell me why, so that way the day I do get it, I'm like, oh, now I see why you were saying that. But you can't just tell me because I said so. Like, that's just a big cop out for me. And I feel like growing up religiously, when they said like, oh, turn the other cheek, I'm like, but why?
Why? Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh, well, Jesus said it. If Jesus said it, then, it must be true. And I'm like, I'm not denying that it's true. What I'm questioning is, how does it work? So I think recently the lesson that I've learned is that everybody is at a different level. Everybody's on a different page. Everybody's on a different walk, right? The way I see it and the way I perceive it is just it's mine. So what am I going to do with the way I am feeling? What am I going to do with the way it's affecting me? So say, for example, this is from the angle of, if someone has wronged me and I need to forgive them, right? Forgiveness comes in degrees. So if it's something little, like, oh, you ran over my foot with the chair. Okay, like, I'll forgive that. Or is it something that's really affecting me? Is it something that needs a boundary? Is it something that is triggering me? Is it something that, how big is this issue? If Grandpa Brian was still here, I would tell him too. Like, he was like, he says, is it that deep? You know what I mean? Is it that deep to cause an issue? Is it that deep to put up a boundary? Is it that deep to take it so personally? Is it that deep to make an issue out of it? And sometimes, yes, you know what I mean? Your emotions are valid, and the way you feel is valid, right? The way you behave is not. So if that boundary is crossed, usually what happens to me, since I have, my own issues and my own traumas, I get angry. And come to find out, that's an ADHD thing too, that we hold on to our anger because it gives us that dopamine release, and we hyper fixate on the issue that is giving us anger, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds. Like, there's been 2 times in my entire life where I was so angry that I saw red, like in the cartoons. Like, who's that guy? The guy with the mustache, the red mustache? And he always, no.
Sam.
Yes,
Sam.
Yosemite Sam. Remember how red he would get when he gets angry? and everything would turn red. I used to think that was a cartoon thing. No, that's an actual life thing. If you get so mad to the point of where you see red, what is happening in your body is that the blood vessels in your eye are dilating, and you're seeing through your blood because of how much adrenaline and how much pump you have in your system.
Are you saying that you're Yosemite Sound, but we all have a choice? You're either the roadrunner or the coyote.
It changes from day to day.
Are you watching the varsity of the situation and creating the obstacles, and then the coyote's the one tripping over his own tail?
This is a good question, but I feel like it just depends on what stage you're at, what book are you on, what page are you on. Because I would say I've been on both sides, and I didn't know. I didn't realize that I was causing issues for other people because, again, being ADHD, I am very logical, so my bluntness comes off very aggressively, and I'm just like, why did she get mad if she asked for my opinion? And it's like, because you told her she looked fat. But he asked my opinion. Like, I'm doing this for her because I don't want her to look like that. Like, why is my honesty such a bad thing? It's not like I'm like, ew, that looks so like I didn't add on to it.
Because people don't know how to be honest, so they're not going to respond that way to you because you are being honest. Do I look fat in this? Well, it's not flattering you.
Yeah.
It is your delivery, but it also is, most people cannot accept the truth anyway. They want you to lie to them.
Yeah.
Hey, you look great. Fantastic. Wonderful.
I just feel
that's
like
great.
I wouldn't be a friend if I was doing that. But again,
no, and that's because you are who you are. So,
exactly.
but not everyone sees it from your perspective, and that's why you get the reaction you do. That's all I wanted to bring out.
No, I understand. Because like I ask why, and I try to dissect it as much as possible, right? So back in the day, when it was like towards loved ones, right, and this would happen, they would be, my emotions were the problem. They'd be like, oh, the way you said it, you just said it with such like, ugh. So you need to fix your emotions on it. So what that translated to me was that I needed to put my emotions in a box, which of course is not healthy now. Now I have to undo all that and figure out a different approach. So that's why for forgiveness for me, it comes in stages. It comes with asking, why is this a boundary? Why does this hurt? And since I said that it brings me to anger first, and anger, like Hannah touched on, is very powerful, and it's also very useful if you use it carefully. So what I started doing when I start remembering all of these traumatic experiences, what's really getting me upset is what Sophia has taught me, that I'm getting upset about the expectations. I'm getting upset about the outcomes. I'm getting upset about, how could they do this to me? How could they be like that? Is there something wrong with me? Why would they do that to me? Like, I would constantly repeat these questions and questions and questions because it did not make sense to me. Why would they do that? I don't get, why would they hurt me like this? And then I would start being like, well, was I the stupid one? Was I the one that was like stupid for being vulnerable and allowing them here? And was I stupid for loving them? Was I stupid for doing, you know what I mean? So once you start having those deep dives like Nick talked about, you'll start to realize that what you're feeling is that you're feeling unheard. You're feeling hurt. You're feeling misunderstood. You're feeling crushed. You're feeling disappointed. You know, once you can identify that and you can say, you know what, that's not my fault. How much am I losing of myself? Like, okay, sure. Maybe it was my fault for being vulnerable. Maybe it was my fault for loving them that much. Maybe it was my fault for not setting those boundaries. But how much am I going to give up of myself? How much am I going to sacrifice of myself to build up those walls to protect myself? And is it worth it at that point? So is that something that I'm going to put on my plate, or is that something that I'm going to let the universe handle?
Yeah, you're not responsible how others react to you.
Right.
If you're standing in your truth and you're being truthful, you're just being you. So when they react that way, that's on them, not you.
Exactly. But it has to be in balance too, because I don't want to be like, well, I have ADHD, you're gonna have to deal with it. If I said that you're ugly, you're gonna have to deal. Like, I don't want to be that way either. I want to take some accountability for myself. So if, like,
it's the words you choose and how you put those together. It's
so if I have to work on my delivery, that's completely fine. But I feel like once people get to know who I am, they're just like, oh, it's fine. Like, she doesn't, like, when I talk to other neurodivergent people like Hannah, they get it. Like, I don't have to like over explain it. They're just like, you're fine. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Like, yeah,
ooh, I'm in good company.
Yeah, because then I was like, that's not what I meant. I meant, well, because then for some reason we have ADHD has this problem too, where we'll over explain things and we'll over try to, you know, and then it comes off as being phony, or it comes off as like trying to be manipulative, or it comes off different ways, and then it's like, and just my brain does not have the capacity for all of that. My brain is very like, what's the fastest dopamine? Let's do that.
The quick fix.
Yeah, I love that.
But I'm gonna quote a song that I usually, when it starts to get too crazy in my head, and not knowing if I should forgive them, where to put this anger, where to put this disappointment, where do I put all these emotions? And the problem is that emotions are not logical, like Nick said. And emotions will go into your body, like Hannah said. So where do you make this bridge meet? You know, where do you make these logical things of like, oh, they're just a fucking asshole. Like, you know, they're dead to me. Like, why am I going to do this? You know? And then being like, well, you know what? The turning the other cheek was basically identifying that we're all children. We're all learning. They're just a child that's acting out because of their own problems, because of their own hurt, because of their own traumas. Which reminds me, I did look up the definition of forgiveness, okay? And forgiveness in itself is not condoning or agreeing to the actions. It's a choice to let go of the past so we can live in the now more fully by giving room for personal growth. Some people learn from committing mistakes. The question is, do they run from it? So if you're the person that's asking for forgiveness, are you running away from that responsibility? Are you running away from why are you hurting other people? Are you running away from... Sorry. I'm very rainbows and sunshines, but like if you give me, you know, it's that pendulum swing, you know, that pendulum swing.
The lightest things can become the darkest things. Oh boy, be on the bad side of the sun.
Even little cats can be tigers and lions.
All in the mind, you know.
That's right.
But like a lot of people touched on this. It's like, what is the goal? What is your point? What are you shooting for, right? Teresa said that she doesn't want it in her body anymore. She doesn't want to feel it anymore. She wants to have her own power and create her own life and not have this control her, you know? So Sophia says, and Nick said that they want to make sure that they stay at a high vibration so they can be useful to other people, so they can be of service.
Yes.
Staying in that high vibration is what's going to keep their mind and their soul clear. So you attract what you stay in. I'm not saying that your emotions are not valid. Go ahead and you can be the victim. Do not use your victim card, though. Everybody has a victim card.
Yeah.
I have no idea how much it pisses me off when people are like, oh, but, you know, I have a victim card. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You want to see it like everyone else is? Like,
For the club, we have.
I got mine too.
I think it's perfectly okay for those who are coming out of a post-traumatic stressful situation to play that victim card because they're crying out for help and it will get them attention. And they need the attention. Because if they're left to their own devices and they're left alone, they could crash and burn in a very big way. So it's okay to let it out initially. My problem is that people live in that space. And I've given this example many times. I've given this example, I think, on several different programs. So excuse my redundancy for those who have heard it. But for those who have not, there was an episode of Deep Space Nine where Captain Sisko or Commander Sisko was visiting the wormhole aliens, and he was trying to explain them the concept of human linear time. And he kept trying to tell them, we progress, we move on, we grow from point A to point B. And they were like, everything happens all at once here. We don't know we don't understand this concept of linear time. But they started monitoring his thoughts and his memories. And he kept going back to one point in time, which was the tragic death of his wife and his own guilt for not being able to save her. And he kept seeing that play over and over in his head. He dreamt about it. And they said, we don't understand your concept of linear time. Of what value is it? Because you keep going back to this memory. And he responded, and he goes, well, because that's how we progress. And they go, then why are you living there? If you're progressing and expanding, why are you living in that space of that memory? Why are you making that your life's focus? And so that's what playing the victim card does, is it keeps you in the
loop. It keeps you in a loop, that cyclical loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, you guys, we're almost 2 hours, and I don't want to go past that.
Right.
Yeah. So fascinating discussion. I hope you guys got something out of it. For me personally, there's a couple of things that I wanted to express, and that was, when I forgive, I'm not forgiving for other people's benefit. I'm forgiving for my own benefit, because that's serving my highest good. So I'm not so much concerned about how they're going to take it, or if they accept it. And that's what I mean by not being in the same place with someone, or having to feel like you have to apologize or forgive somebody without their knowledge. It's important that you forgive within yourself. How do you forgive yourself? Let me ask you this. If you are a parent and you have a child, I don't have any children. I'm not a parent, but I know that children are unconditionally loved by their parents for the most part. Most people feel that way about their children. Try feeling that for yourself. Put that on yourself and treat yourself as that unconditional child that needs the unconditional forgiveness from you. And that comes from a heart space and a loving space. Forgiving yourself is the most important thing in my mind. If you are able to forgive someone else and they reciprocate, then that's even better. That's butter on the bread, so to speak. But you are deserving of forgiveness, no matter what you've done in life, no matter what's going on. So allow yourself that. Otherwise, you're living your life you're living in an emotional water that is muddy, and it's dirty, and it's filthy, and you just don't want to go there. So anyway, I feel like people are having a hard time sitting still. I'm going to go ahead and
well, I do have a closing intent.
Okay, quickly, and then we'll close this out.
Yeah, I'm not going to rush it, but I will go as
Thank you.
as fast as I can here.
Thank you.
Listen, folks, this intent is, I pray that people that have harmed me, who harm themselves and who harm others, can be brought through their healing journey that they are avoiding by hurting themselves and others, so that they are so aware of the light that they never have to hurt themselves or others again. And may any type of predatory behavior birth a desire within their soul for them to be of greater service to the world that we live in, because this is when the light is really moving through us, and that we are wanting wellness for all. We are wanting justice for all, and we're not looking at it through reward and punishment. We're not looking at it through judgmental fairness lenses, but rather seeing fairness as being that everyone deserves to heal. Everyone deserves to know how powerful their ability to help can be for others. And that's the world that we are continuing to see being created during this shift. The more light that shines, the more miracles appear on this planet, and the more that type of spiritual renaissance and renewal comes to life. Matt Kahn, he's the one that put that out there as an intent, and I wanted to bring it to you all. So thank you, Lori.
Yep, no problem. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you had some food for thought and let that absorb, let it simmer, let it marinate, whatever you needed to do. If it didn't, that's wonderful too. At least we all had an opportunity to share our understandings. I want to thank Zach for being here. Thank you so much, Zach. Appreciate you. Love seeing you here. Hannah, thank you very much for being here. You're awesome. Nick, Jasmine, my adorable pair. I love you guys to death. Just, you're the best. Sophia, we couldn't do it without the comic relief. So thank you kindly. Thanks for the laughs. Thanks for the ducky. Teresa, thank you for your insight and your understanding and sharing with all of us. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you,
all
Lori,
right.
for that video. Was fantastic.
Thank you, Lori, for pulling this off.
Yeah, thank you.
I would love to
appreciate
see that video out there as a separate standalone.
The one of the reasons I stopped doing the trailer videos was because I felt like it was kind of oversaturated. So
no, I dig the preamble. Let's know what I'm signing up for that Friday night.
You guys, let us know in the comments how you feel about that. If you like those as standalones, I'll put them out there for you. If you like to see it with the chat and the talk that we're doing on a live show, that's great too. But give us some feedback in the comments, and if you guys really like those, I'll keep putting them out there. But I just didn't want to kind of saturate that. But thank you for that. I appreciate that very much. Not sure what we're going to talk about next week, but I'm sure Spirit will help us out. And I just want you all to have a wonderful evening, and go out and forgive yourself and others, and give it a shot. See how you feel about it. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Love and peace to all of you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yep. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace out.